Hey guys! Welcome to MaffmanJones, the channel. I'm your host, John Maffio. And tonight, this morning, whenever you're watching this video, it's 2:40 on the East Coast in the morning here, and in less than an hour, Daredevil Season 2 releases. Now, I watched Season 1 back last year, and I was a huge fan of it. Didn't make a video about it, but this year I decided to do something a little different. And in the case that, I'm going to review Daredevil Season 2. But not in the conventional way. Rather, I'm going to binge the season, and after every episode, I'm going to come back here and recap my thoughts on how the season's going with every individual episode as the season progresses. And then at the very end, you'll get my overall thoughts that encapsulate how I felt about Season 2 in general. But I think it's going to be a little fun. I don't know if I'm going to be able to binge the entire season in this timing, because I'm only a human being, but I'm going to go as far as I could. Hopefully I don't crash. But I got coffee ready, I got donuts ready, I got food ready, and I'm just gonna go ham. Like Jay-Z and Kanye once said.
Here's your spoiler warning. Beware.
Without further ado, let us enter Hell's Kitchen, Manhattan, and begin our journey. That was a solid season opener. I'm a really big fan of the way they built up the Punisher like he was the Predator, and when he shows up, the action was really good. Foggy has some balls. Karen wants the Matt Murdick, and I'm really excited to see how this develops, the story, I mean. I'm already on board, so it didn't have to blow me away like the first season did, but they definitely got to a good start. Let's go, guy. Alright, this episode was a little slower than the first episode, but I'm a really big fan of what they're doing with the Punisher still. John Bernthal has those crazy eyes, man. Like, he terrifies me just with his looks. The actual lawyer investigations were really interesting, and there was a round 2 fight between Daredevil and Punisher, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. This episode was amazing. The rooftop scene between Frank Castle and Matthew Murdock, it was like some weird version of the Green Goblin Spider-Man scene from Spider-Man 1, minus the possibility of teaming up. You got a little more of a sense of Frank's ideology and what he does. Both of these characters fight for the same cause, but they just go about different ways of doing it. Frank likes to kill to get things done, while, Daredevil does it, but without killing. He's like Batman, he has a moral code. Lots of verbal banter, but I was a fan of every second of it. Then we get that incredible hallway / stairwell sequence, where we get Daredevil with a gun in one hand duct taped, and the other hand he has a freaking chain whip. Let it be known that at this moment right now, this is my favorite episode of Season 2. I loved it. It was a Punisher-centric episode, but there were other focuses on other characters also, but it was mainly on the Punisher though. And I gotta say, I'm falling in love with the Punisher in this show. We're starting to see the birth of an alliance between Punisher and Daredevil in this episode, but then we get to the part where the Punisher gives this little monologue about coming home from the war and seeing his daughter again for the first time in years, and coming home to the family and just like having the tragedy of having his daughter die in his arms and she has no face. Oh, I cried. The first for Daredevil show I actually cried. And then also we get Karen and Matt Murdock finally romancing, or at least getting to start to see what could become a nice relationship. And then, when things are all nice, Elektra shows up. Elektra's quote-unquote ex-boyfriend got a hot date ringer went off in her head, so she had to show up. On to the next one. So there's a lot of focus on the relationships in this episode. I wasn't bored, but I wasn't particularly as interested in this episode as I was in the other episodes. The dynamic between Matthew Murdock and Karen is okay, but I'm not like buying into it crazy yet. But obviously he has more fire and some weird, dark passion going on with Elektra, and that's the point, I think, because Elektra brings out something in him that everybody else can't. And I actually like the actress who plays Elektra right now. Her playing the character, her personality shines, and she's got some kind of sexy thing going on. And Matthew and her had sex in a boxing ring. I guess when you have the urge, you have the urge. Another good episode. It was a little filler cap though. A lot of talking, a lot of this. I don't mind, but it's also because it's 8 o'clock in the morning, so I kind of dozing off a little bit. But as we can see, Matthew Murdock and their firm, they're trying to recruit Frank Castle because otherwise he's going to be put on a death penalty, possibly, most likely. And it's succeeding. We're also finding out more about Frank Castle, and once again, John Bernthal great as the Punisher. He's doing a great job. Everybody else is doing a really good job, and I can't wait to see what happens next. We are getting into the trial of the people versus Frank Castle in this episode. And actually, the trial is really interesting. Matt Murdock is letting Elektra's plans get in his way of actually, doing things like the opening statement. And it's getting him into fuse between him and his best friend Foggy. And it's actually kind of heartbreaking to watch them fight. Karen's got some interesting dynamic, too, because she's Matt's current girlfriend now. And she wants to know what's going on, too, but he hasn't told her about his Daredevil persona yet. And Frank is just sitting there watching this all happen, and he doesn't give a flying fuck what happens. Judging by the end of this episode, I'm going to assume that Stick, Matt Murdock's old mentor, is going to be returning, finally, and he was an awesome character in the last season, so I can't wait to see what happens with him in this season. Oh boy. In the words of Mr. Garrison's slave, Jesus Christ. Where do I begin with this episode? So much happens. First of all, I was right about Stick. He returns like in the first 10 minutes of the episode. We got ninja action. Elektra kills a young kid and it made me gasp out loud. The Punisher and Kingpin are now talking to each other. And I think Fisk was up to something. He did it on purpose. I guess we'll find out now. But I'm wide awake now. And I can't wait to go further. Let's go! This episode contained lots of prison time. We saw Wilson Fisk climb up to the ranks to become the one true kingpin of the facility that he's resting in. And he also recruited Frank Castle to do his bidding, but also benefit himself. They got into a little tussle. Also, Daredevil fought another ninja, who apparently was somebody he fought from the first season that was supposed to be dead, but was alive. He had a big scar on his face. I don't remember him. No, I just remembered he fought him. And he was set on fire or something? I've been awake too long. In this episode, people were fighting, people were dying, particularly people who probably deserved to die because of bad karma. Kingpin was still scheming in his prison, and something weird happened at the end. It was supernatural. But Rosario Dawson certainly didn't like what she saw, and it made her cream her pants. And ninjas are about to wreck shit. So I fell asleep 3/4 of the way through this episode, and I did go back to sleep after that for 4 hours. So I went back and watched it again, and it was a good episode, but the highlight of it was the diner scene with Frank Castle. The brutality of it. That was a really bad Spider-Man 3 reference, if you got that. I think I'm going to call it quits till tomorrow. So I couldn't help myself. I watched one more episode before I had to get busy with some other things. And it's a pretty damn good episode. We got some confrontations between Elektra, Stick, Daredevil, and the Hand. And apparently the revelation is that Elektra is Black Sky. Now, I remember Black Sky being mentioned in the first season, but not much else about it. But apparently Elektra is not a chosen one, but I guess she has this kind of power that only she is capable of accessing. Also, the Punisher is evolving as a character, and Karen has given up on him because he's just gone full rogue, and he's technically dead because of everybody thinking he's dead because he blew up on the Hudson, but he's not. He's still alive, and guess what? He's still killing everybody! But he found an arsenal of weapons, and he found a vest, which I guess he's going to spray paint the skull on it or something. Well, I guess we'll find out in the finale, but can't wait to see what happens next! This finale was spectacular. It definitely built up from all the episodes prior to it, all the arcs that were transpiring, all the actual stories that were building up. The climax was pretty climatic. Wow, that was a terrible... Imagine that on the back of a DVD. Man, the climax is just so climatic. everything has been leading up to this giant confrontation, this giant battle between Electro, Daredevil, and the Hand, who is led by this guy, Nobu, I think his name is. And you got the Punisher in there too, who's doing his own thing on the side. The choreography in the fighting in this entire series has been something to admire, but the sequence in this particular episode is one of my favorites. And you get to see a lot going on, a lot of fighting between Electro and Daredevil, their dynamic together, their weaponry. And Daredevil got his new weapon, his famous little billy club stick thingy. But then, yeah, Electro dies. Pity. But I think she dies in the comic book, so it's supposed to happen. She's Black Sky, though, so I guess the Hand took her dead body out of the grave 6 feet under, and they're gonna put her in that giant tomb that's gonna maybe resurrect her at some point. I was a little bit disappointed by the Punisher in this season finale because he basically has this whole build-up just to show up and shoot a couple guys with a long-range assault rifle. And he looks badass. The skull and everything, his costume is... ugh. Him servicing the story was a little anticlimactic. I'm guessing, though, that they are planning on doing a lot with him and expanding his character in Season 3, along with a possible spin-off series, because if anybody deserves a spin-off series in this whole Netflix Marvel thing, it's The Punisher. We also get a very cinematic ending for this season, and I love the whole ending with the monologue with Karen, but we get this little Spider-Man 2 moment where Matthew does tell Karen that he is, in fact, the Daredevil, and she has this look upon her face that's kind of like... huh. We didn't really see anything conclusive for Fisk. He's still in prison, but he's playing the long game, as he said, and when he gets out, not gonna be good for Matthew Murdock and his friends. No. There were a couple moments in the entire season that were a little muddled, a little watered down, that I kind of got bored at. Maybe it was a mix of the fact that I was also, like, sleep deprived, so I was, like, dozing off a little bit. But a lot of the, just dialogue sequences were mesmerizing. Just seeing certain characters interact with each other, and even though I think a couple of the big action sequences in the first season were better, I do think overall the action going on, even though it was a bit repetitive, was pretty amazing. Moments that made me actually gasp out loud, like, will include when Frank Castle, like, blew that Irish mobster's face away, the torture scene where Stick was getting little things thrown into his fingernails. Fingernails are the worst. Just thinking about it. I haven't seen Season 1 since last year, but upon reflecting now, I do have a nice recollection for the most part of how Season 1 went down, and I was a huge fan of that entire season. I think I like the story in that season more than this season, but the new additions to the cast were great. Elektra and Punisher were really good. I didn't expect to like Elektra as much as I did, but she really came through. However, John Bernthal as the Punisher is the highlight of the season, and his performance was something to marvel. Literally. No pun intended, though. The character friendships, the relationships, the arcs, everything was explored in a different way that kept the gears moving in an interesting fashion, and I'm looking forward to see what happens next. Daredevil Season 2, solid. I don't know about Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones I didn't review, but that was a little bit less accessible in my opinion, even though it does go into darker themes. Daredevil, I think people really will love, and if you loved Season 1 or enjoyed it, you're gonna enjoy or love Season 2 also. But now I want to know from you guys, what do you think of Daredevil Season 2? Where are you at right now? Did you finish it like I did? Are you just seeing a couple episodes in? Are you trying to find time to work it in? What are you guys doing? Are you going to finish it? Are you going to watch it? Do you care or not care? I want to know everything. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and check out my Facebook and Twitter accounts in the info box. I'm John Maffio, aka MaffmanJones, and I'm pretty sure I've never visited Hell's Kitchen before. And I've been to New York hundreds of times. It's probably a problem. Should probably do that. See you guys next time.